Launching into the beginning of like overwhelm, I'd love to know from you what overwhelm feels like for you. And if you're, if you're watching this later, take a moment to contemplate that. Maybe write some notes down and consider, what is overwhelm like for me? How do I know when I'm overwhelmed? So, some examples, and you can pop some into the questions if you like, into the comments thread. But some examples might be that you are, forgetting things, that you're getting snappy with people in your life, you are feeling exhausted, you're sleeping a lot, maybe you can't sleep, you're having insomnia, maybe you're finding you're clenching your teeth, or you're having nervous, like, movements in your hands and legs. Um, you might just feel like kind of depleted, like, and kind of like everything feels like too much, like life is just too much, and like you want to give up. You may feel like you have to move faster, and so you're always on the go to do it all. And so these can cause, if not, if not managed well, these can cause burnout over time. So again, chime in if you have your own experiences with that and what that's like for you. And then let's talk about what that's like inside yourself. So some of those were an inner experience, but I'd like to know more about what you notice in your actual body when you have this overwhelm, whether you're feeling more like, depleted, energy down, or you're feeling like your energy's up and you're running, running, running. What's that like internally? And so take a moment to consider that, and then you can pop into the comments about that. It might be, I'll just share a little bit about, some ideas that might be happening and that I noticed for myself or my clients. Like a lethargy, like your body feels heavy. You may feel like a closing in your chest, like when you kind of want to give up and, not participate in life. If you're more on that kind of up and ampy energy, you may have like your breathing is faster. You may feel like your heart beats faster. You may feel a lot of heat in your body. You may feel like your mind's going 100 miles a minute. So those are some examples. And the point is really for you, because it's not a kind of a cookie cutter solution here, overwhelm, and how to manage it. It's really an individual thing, and everyone does it differently. So my invitation for you today is to tune into, what's my flavor of overwhelm? How does that look like and feel like in my life? What does it feel like internally? How do I know when it's happening? And also, um, what are some outside symptoms that I'm feeling overwhelmed? So this is an awareness practice, more than anything. So let's continue then with some suggestions. And again, this is just some examples of what you might consider, but it's not cookie cutter. That some of these things are going to work better for some people than for others. And so if you know what works for you, that's the best that you take that into account. So I would like you to consider what we call resources. And we're going to start with what are called external resources, which are things that you do that you know are reliably comforting for you. So it might, or soothing, you can consider. So what's soothing or comfortable or calming for you, that's also, something you won't regret later. So we're not talking about like, um, too much alcohol or smoking tobacco, or some people do turn to addictive substances when they need some soothing and comforting. And so we're not talking about those here, because what we want is for you to find some sustainable external resources and activities that help you to kind of feel more balanced and centered when you're in overwhelm. I'm going to tune into a comment here that says, truthfully, I've said I struggle with dissociation and it's never been so intense. I've experienced all of those symptoms, but I also just shut down completely. I've lost hours every day for the last month at least. Yeah, I know you're not alone in that. I've definitely heard from others that just feel like they're not getting as much done as they might usually do. They need a lot more rest and downtime, and so I'm glad you're letting yourself do that. And then you're saying water helps you. Great. I'm going to mention that too. That was on my list. Um, so external resources is to consider, like, what do I do that reliably supports me? So um, I've got a list. I'm going to just peek at that so I don't forget anything. There's so many that you could consider. And again, some things work for you, others don't. And me sharing some of these things and looking at other people's comments is going to help you maybe discover ones that you haven't tried or maybe you haven't done for a while that actually would help you, that you could benefit from just getting other people's ideas. So for some people, it can be something as simple as like making a hot cup of tea, and holding that warm cup and like, that feels so grounding and centering, or the feeling of the tea going down your throat. It could be that you play music that feels, maybe it makes you smile or it makes you want to dance, or, it's very calming. So maybe it's movement. For a lot of us, movement really helps to shift the energy. So maybe you need to energize yourself because you're kind of more shut down or dissociated, or maybe you need to calm yourself with more calming movement. Maybe it's yoga, maybe it's exercise, hiking or biking or walking or dancing. So everybody needs movement, right? So find what works for you. Sometimes it can be so simple, like joint rotations. A really great way to get energy flowing in the body. You can do your shoulders, your wrists, your neck, your hips and ribs. So even super simple movement is a great way to shift and kind of re-energize and center yourself. Touch. And so if you're isolated right now, you're not around people, you can do some self-touch. We've talked about this before. Hugging yourself or kind of little squeezes up and down your arms can be very soothing and a way to bring you into your body. Or if you are with people that you like to touch, you can ask for a back rub, you can ask for a hug. Touch is super soothing and helps us get a hit of oxytocin, especially with those at least 20-second hugs, I believe they say. Then we get a hit of oxytocin, which is that hormone that helps us feel calm and connected. Time in nature is a great one, and a lot of us have nature around. Some of us have maybe a city park or something as simple. I was talking with a client who's in a city, and just looking out the window and seeing a tree or seeing a flower can be really soothing. So, or maybe, well, I'll talk about other things actually in a moment, but we're talking right now about the outer resources. What's external from you that can support you? Play, right? We all need to play. We get so serious sometimes, and then our body gets tense and contracted. So what do you do that's playful, whether it's playing a board game or cards, or an online game with somebody, or being silly with your kids? Shifting out of that seriousness of adulthood and responsibility can be super helpful. Socializing in general, so with people you feel comfortable and safe with. We all need that. We are social beings. So if you don't have anyone face to face you're with, then picking up the phone or making a Zoom call, even better, or a FaceTime. Anytime you have eye contact, we get what's called co-regulation. So especially with someone in a more kind of loving and calm space, seeing them smile, listening to them, kind of feeling their energy together, that's super healing, and everybody needs that. Some people journal, so writing down what's happening for you can be really helpful. And another one, ritual practices. So maybe you like to light a candle and say a prayer. Maybe you meditate, whatever. Maybe you work with tarot cards. So what are, if you have ritual practices that you've dropped, maybe that would really be supportive for you to kind of come back and tune into that other aspect, the more spiritual side of your being. And then healthy food and drink, right? If you've been on the go, you've been in a hurry, you're not eating well, you're going to feel that energetically in your body. Your mind might not be as sharp. You might be feeling more sluggish um, or too ampy if you're drinking too much caffeine, eating a lot of sugar, bad fats and fried food and packaged food and all that. So really encourage you as part of a self-care program to look at what you're ingesting, what you're putting in your body, and even taking a moment to cook something, to to see it in front of you, to have gratitude for the food, to make sure you're getting the different colors, right? The greens, the reds, the yellows, the oranges. That's going to be really supportive to your system and healing and coming more into balance. And then when you're eating your food, can you eat mindfully, like really savoring the flavors, enjoying them? A lot of us tend to multitask when we're eating, we're talking, we're watching, we're reading, and we aren't even appreciating that wonderful nourishment we're taking in. So that can be a way to ground yourself, to center, to feel the food turning in your mouth, to taste it, to watch your teeth and tongue working inside. Another suggestion, creative projects. When we're really busy, that can be the first thing to go. So what is it that you like to create, whether it's, beadwork or painting or drawing or working with found objects? What's your creative project? For me, it's often the garden or writing. So whatever that looks like for you, where do you get to put out your creativity? When I teach yoga classes, that's a creative outlet for me. And another one I love is water, is getting into water. So the hot bath or shower, immersing the body. Maybe you live by the ocean, maybe you live by a creek or a river or a lake or a pond. How can you get into water and really feel nature on you, And water is super healing for our bodies. And especially, if you're comfortable in the water and you can hang out for a while and just appreciate the feel of it, this can be very grounding and calming to the system. So those were some of the outer resources, and I'm just going to peek at the comments here and see if there's any more. I'm not seeing any right now. So I'm going to shift now into inner resources. And this is something that, we don't always consider, like, what is it that helps me, if I don't have those outer resources handy, if I don't have the music or the journal or the nature or the creative practice, or, I can't take a nap, or there's no one around to socialize, like, what do I do for myself internally that can help me balance and feel more centered? And so I have a nice list here for you. So I hope you're taking notes. Silence is a really great one, as long as that's not kind of agitating for your system, because sometimes if we're already too amped and we try to get silent, that can feel overwhelming too. But if you have a way to be in silence that does feel soothing, whether it is meditation or doing movement like yoga or Tai Chi or walking at the beach, somewhere where you're not, listening to a recording, you're not on the phone, and you're just being quiet with yourself, not writing, just really listening inward to what's kind of wanting to bubble up from inside. What's the wisdom that wants to be heard inside of you? What are you processing? So silence, really, I think one, key nourishment that we all should take in every day. And then breathing practices. I've taught many of those here. A simple one is that long exhale, so a deep breath in. And with the sound, ah, or ooh, or om, any sound, any vowel sound, a long exhale. And you can imagine it flowing down your body. The movement of the sound is very calming and soothing, all the way down to your toes. That might be beneficial for you. It's an inner practice. And then other things we've talked about here are noticing your body sensations and starting with the periphery, like your feet on the floor, or maybe they're crossed under you, and feeling the feet on whatever surface they're on, your butt on the cushion. If you're sitting, what are you sitting on? Feeling that surface that you're sitting on. The air on your skin, is it cool? Is it warm? Is it neutral? Maybe you have air moving around you. There's a fan in the room, or you're outside and there's a breeze. So feeling that in your hair or on your face. And then I talked about self-touch. So that's something you could do anywhere, right? You can give your hands a squeeze, your forearms a squeeze, and you're not necessarily doing massage, though you could. That's just a different practice, but just to say hello, like, okay, let me feel my forearms. How often do I just feel my forearms or my biceps or my shoulders? And so it's a great way to come back to center, to feel, okay, I'm here, I have a body, this is awesome. um, Self-touch. And the last one I had was body sensations. And what I mean by that is inner sensations. So you might feel like a tingling inside, or a heat, or like a movement. Maybe your belly's turning, or maybe your legs are vibrating. You might sense a heaviness somewhere, like, like you could feel that in your chest, or you might feel that in your hips, kind of dropping the weight of the bones of the legs and hips. Maybe you feel a little pinging in your body, or a little pokey, or maybe you feel tension. So there's all sorts of ways that we experience sensation, and sometimes we're kind of numb to that. We don't feel that very much unless we're having extreme pain or hunger or thirst, or we have to use the bathroom, the pressure in your bowels. But I encourage you to start tuning in. And so when those silent moments are great times to just get curious about, is there anything happening in my body I haven't noticed? What's happening can I feel my heart rate? Is my jaw tight? Is my mouth moist? Is my tongue tense, or is it relaxed? What's happening in my belly? So the inner sensations, and like I said, you may not have many, but with practice and over time, you might be able to notice more. So I know I went quickly, and my intention was to just move right through and give you a lot of examples and things to work with and consider. I want to keep it brief today, but if you do come to this later and want to leave a comment or ask a question, I would love to answer it. So definitely don't be shy and share your information. Tell me what you're noticing, and leave your own resources for other people, because we can benefit from hearing and learning about what other people find soothing. Um, I just thought of the weighted blanket. A lot of people like those, that real heavy blanket. You put it on your body. It's like, it's very comforting, unless it's not. So because we're all different, and why I say trauma informed is because these finding inner and outer resources is very healing for traumatic experiences when we carry trauma in the body, whether it's early life trauma that was more chronic, or whether you had an event like a car accident or a fall or a surgery, or some kind of abuse. Then these things are going to be really supportive to your nervous system. So whether your overwhelm is ancient or new, our nervous systems need support. So I sure hope you find this helpful. Please get in touch if you'd like any more support from me, or like to ask any questions. And if you haven't yet seen my guide to the biggest relationship mistakes, then go head over to consciousthriving.relationships.com/home, and you can sign up for that, and you'll get emails from me about relationship tips. And I also do have a short course on working with your nervous system where I teach a lot more about the nervous system and the different aspects, and I give some more thorough practices. So if you'd like to check that out, I'll leave a link here with the video. So thanks for watching. And I wish for you that you find what works best and you pay attention to yourself and give yourself the calm and the balance that you need, the self-care that's so important, especially in trying times. Namaste.